All right, welcome back to our video series on creating a data analyzer for the COVID-19 pandemic data. So first off, notice I'm back in my code here. I'm in a virtual environment, and recall in our virtual environment we have some packages installed. In particular, for this video, we're going to need matplotlib pyplot. So if that still isn't working for you, then you're going to need to ask for help before you are able to do this video. All right, so in this video we're going to be adding on to our method from last time. Last video we got it showing our data, and at the end I mentioned that it might be interesting to kind of see that growth or see that graph for just bits of our data. So we're going to modify that method so that it shows just the first n days of the data. And so if we think about how to do that, first off in my plot here, I'm going to go ahead and add a parameter. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say that, so num days, and I'm going to give it a default value that's going to be the number of days total, right? So that way, if we don't want to just get like the first 10 days, the first 20 days, then it by default gets all of it. So the default value here would be just the length of our dates, right? Because at this point we'll have loaded dates in here, and so I'm just going to say len of self dot dates. All right, so that should be the default number of days. Otherwise, what we're going to do, actually not what we're going to do here, what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, so y is a list, right? And the way we access parts of a list is we say, well, the list bracket, and then we want everything from the beginning up to the number of days. So I'm going to say blank colon, because remember, if we don't put anything before the colon, it assumes we want from the beginning. So colon num days. All right. And that's actually all we need to change here, because that's going to make y be this subset, possibly, or again, if num days is just the whole thing, then this will also work. So it's going to be the subset of the number of days, and then since x is based off of y, and we're just plotting x and y, then this should actually do what we want. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it and test that we get the same behavior as before. It says self is not defined. Where is that? Yeah, so, okay, so we can't refer to self inside of here because it's not sure what self is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to give num days a default value of none. Okay, so what that means is then here I can say if num days is none, then we'll set num days to be len of self dot dates, and at that point it'll know what self dot dates is because self is getting defined right here. So if num days is none, then set it, otherwise we can just assume it was given in. All right, so that should fix that problem. I didn't even think about that. So there we go. Cool. Again, we're getting connected dots here. I thought we fixed that last time. Let's see here. So the way to fix that, RO, I must have undone a save or something that I did. And so there we go. Cool. So now we have the original data points showing. Make sure you can see that. Yep, cool, you can. All right, so we have the original data point showing. So now we want to test that it works if I give it fewer, right? So down here when I say plot, all right, so when I say plot, I'm going to give it, let's just say we went the first 10 days. Okay, so I run it. And so now we can see, all right, well that doesn't look like an exponential graph, but remember it's just the first 10 days. And for a couple of days there was only one case, and then for a couple of days there were only two cases, and then for a couple of days there were 5 cases. Right, and then for a couple days there were 7 cases and so on. So let's make this the first 20 days. And same idea, we're seeing this tiered structure because we just weren't seeing new cases every single day just yet in the first 20 days. It stayed, there were maybe 11 cases for a few days here. Okay, let's change it to the first 30 days. All right, so in the first 30 days we have the same tiered structure, right? It's just jumping all of a sudden. So there was only a couple of positives here and there, and it just wasn't changing very rapidly. So let's keep going. Let's just see what happens. All right, so now we're starting to see a little bit more of that graph. So see how we have, it is still tiered here, but then we get this growth in that last few days. Let's look at the first 50 days. Okay, so now we're seeing that exponential graph. So notice the first 50 days. And look at the end of the 50th day. See how it's up here? All right, see how we see that exponential graph? Now let's look at the first 60 days again. Now remember, here we go. Now look at the end of that. Remember that first 50 days, how that looked when we zoomed in on it? All right, so we're getting the same graph from the first 60 days as well. Okay, so that's all we're getting at, is we're going to see this graph. And so once we get to 70 and 80, we're going to expect to actually see the same basic graph as we're kind of almost like zooming out on it, right? And now that we're, as we already know, kind of we're 100,000+ cases, or 100,000+ cases, we're going to keep seeing this. So let's see, I'm not sure how many days we had total. I think, yeah, so our last was March 21st. With our current data, right? So that's around the 60-day mark, 25,000-ish. And so that's going to be it for this video. So we now have our plot function or method showing a certain number of days. In our next video, we're going to look at how to do the actual regression and how to get the equation essentially for the data so that we can then kind of plot a curve and make some predictions for future. And then we can compare, again, now that we're kind of living in the future here, we're a week ahead of this data, we can look at the predictions versus reality and try to get a feel for what's happening. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.